Good evening, everyone. My name is Abeo Chimika Tisdale, and I'm the programming assistant at Charis Circle, which is the nonprofit programming arm of Charis Books and More, the South's oldest independent feminist bookstore. Tonight, we are so excited to be here for What a Whirl. Three poets read from new books written in collaboration with the late Maureen Seaton. Joining us tonight are Samuel Ace, Denise Duhamel, and Aaron Smith in celebration of their collections Portals, Tilt, and Beautiful People, all written in collaboration with Maureen Seaton. I'm going to get us started with some bios and a couple of housekeeping things before passing it over to our readers. Denise Duhamel and Maureen Seaton co authored six collections, the most recent of which is Tilt. She co edited with Maureen Seaton and David Trinidad Saints of Hysteria, a half century of collaborative American poetry. Her solo books include Pink Lady, Second Story, and Scald. A recipient of NEA and Guggenheim Fellowships, she is a distinguished university professor at Florida International University in Miami. Aaron Smith and Maureen Seaton co authored Beautiful People. He is the author of Blue on Blue Ground, Appetite, Primer, and the Book of Daniel. A three-time finalist for the Lambda Literary Award, he is the recipient of fellowships from the New York Foundation for the Arts, and the Mass Cultural Council. His work has appeared in numerous publications, and he is currently Associate Professor in Creative Writing at Lesley University in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Samuel Ace and Maureen Seaton co authored two books, the most recent of which is Portals. Ace is a trans and genderqueer poet whose most recent solo books include I Want to Start by Saying, Our Weather, Our Sea, and Meet Me There, Normal Sex and Home in 3 Days, Don't Wash. Ace is the recipient of the Astria Lesbian Writer Award and the Firecracker Alternative Book Award in Poetry, a multi-time finalist for the Lambda Literary Award in Poetry and the National Poetry Series. His work has been widely published and can be found in many journals and anthologies. Maureen Seaton authored more than 2 dozen books of poetry and one memoir. Most recently, The Sky is an Elephant and Undersea. In addition to her solo work, Maureen was a prolific, energetic, and generous collaborator. She wrote with and published several collaborative books, and in addition to her Lambda Literary Award, she was the recipient of a National Endowment for the Arts Fellowship and a grant from the Illinois Arts Council. She was voted Miami's best poet by the Miami New Times and was professor emerita of English and creative writing at the University of Miami. Some things to keep in mind throughout the event. We encourage audience members to leave questions, comments, and lots of love for our readers in the chat. And there will be time for questions after the readings, so put your questions in the chat. And lastly, buying your books from Charis directly supports our work and allows us to keep putting on free events like this. So if you're interested in buying any of these collections or Maureen solo work, you can press the teal button at the bottom of your screen to get them from our website. And I'll pass it over to you, Sam.
Thank you, Abeo. And thank you, Charis. Charis, I'm in the Atlanta area, and just Charis is the spirit of this place for me. It feels like home, and just really happy to be here tonight to celebrate these books, and especially to celebrate Maureen. Tonight, our first reader is going to be Aaron Smith, um, who whose book Beautiful People was written with Maureen toward the end of her life. And for all of the readers tonight, one of us will be reading our part. In this case, Aaron will be reading his part, and Denise Duhamel will be reading Maureen's voice. And so the order is going to be Aaron reading from Beautiful People, then I will be reading from Portals, and then Denise will be reading from Tilt. All right, and we'll go right into Aaron with Denise.
So yeah, we're reading. It's funny because we don't see the audience. So like Denise and I, like we're on a game show. Like I feel like we're doing one of those like guess a word game shows. I wanted to show our book. This is Beautiful People that I wrote with Maureen. And then if you flip it over, there's the double book and Tilt with Denise, and Maureen is on the other side. So we were really lucky that Project Poetica out of Southern Methodist University Press, agreed to do it like that for us. It was a real dream. And the book artist is Joshua Benmore. You should check out his work too. My students, it's funny, were asking me last night about collaboration, and they asked me what it was like. And I've been asked this a few times since the book came out, and I feel like it's hard to discuss because so Maureen and I never were really in a room together in her life. We maybe crossed paths a couple of times at like AWP. I published some of her work when I was editing Bloom, the Queer Literary Journal. She referenced a poem of mine in an interview, and I had been a diehard fan of Furious Cooking since Nancy Krygowski, who I see is here, who's our editor of the Pit Poetry series, mine and Denise's. She brought in some poems that were in Prairie Schooner when we were in graduate school in the 90s, and I immediately fell in love. So I was teaching Maureen's book, and I thought, it was during COVID, I'm just going to reach out and see if she'll come to class. So she did, and we had the best time. It was like this immediate connection, and her dog Binky was barking during the thing, and I had a Chihuahua, and I have two dogs that I can't promise won't bark while we're doing this. And when my dog died, she called me and she wanted me to tell her the whole story of it. And then she said, that makes me realize that I want that kind of death for myself. That was very peaceful. And I'm comfortable with words like spiritual, but for myself, but it was one of the most profound experiences writing with her, because we realized we wanted to be in contact more after that class. And then we just started writing in poems, and we were dialoguing. And then Emily emailed me when Maureen was coming down to her last days and wanted to know what the final version of Beautiful People was, because Maureen wanted her to read that to her while she was in bed. And that just always moves me. So it was a profound experience. And then to get to share a book with Denise on the other side is so much. But taking you from a serious, the section of poems we're going to read are kind of wild. So, and then after we finish that section, I'm going to read one unpublished Maureen sonnet. She and I wrote 4 more after this book was finished, and they're actually going to be published in Allium, a journal out of Columbia College, in the spring, but they're not in the book. But I wanted to read like her final sonnet there. So give me a second. I have several tabs open, and this is a crown of sonnets that we wrote, and we go back and forth. Like I do one, and then everything that Denise is reading, she's Maureen. And it's an excerpt from the section of the book called Queer People. So I'll begin. Earring Magic Ken has his own Wikipedia page, and apparently gay men bought the doll in droves. What wasn't to love? Blonde highlights, lavender mesh shirt, purple leather vest, earring in his left ear, and the circular charm on his necklace that everyone thought was a cock ring. Because of that, Mattel discontinued the doll and recalled him from stores. But Ken didn't have a cock, so he certainly didn't need to put a ring on it. Cue Beyonce, which makes me think how gay men love divas. Whitney, Britney, Cher, Mariah, Gaga, Madonna, Judy Barbara, Liza, Donna, Diana, Dolly, Bet, Janet, Kylie, RuPaul, J. Hud, Dusty, Celine, Wonder Woman, and Bay, Avi. The Billy doll needed the cock ring. I wish I could sing.
When I'm sad, I sing in the car. When I'm happy, I sing and dance in my bedroom and hope no one hears me, or for that matter, sees me. My divas are Patty, Laura, Joni, Stevie, Sting, and Santana. That is my extremely short list, but my actual list is crazy long, so I will send you that by Sistina soon. I know gay men's divas are sacred in a slightly different way than mine, as I am kind of a Mary Magdalene freak. Mary's Wikipedia page says she had 7 demons driven right out of her, and I've had at least that many driven out of me or into me, depending. Much of my life has been spent restoring the demons that were batted out of the park along the way. For example, happiness, raucous laughter, lawless sonnets, and of course, sex.
The first time I came across a bunch of rowdy lesbians was at an outdoor wedding in Columbus, Ohio. It was long before marriage really counted. But those dykes didn't care. They were Buckeye dykes, swing state dykes, rowdy dykes, not dykes on bikes, but I'm sure they had some, and guns too. There were guys in skirts with purses, but it was all about the volleyball and sports bras. And when coolers needed moved, full of gay beers, dykey cokes, lesy sodas, and gay ass waters, the women carried them. Nobody asked the men or needed them. Of course, I know now women can do anything, duh. But I was young and from West Virginia, where men did the heavy shit and women didn't lift. There was no prince that day or fairy tale bullshit, just women in love and thirsty guests grabbing drinks from coolers.
Listen up, queers of the world. There's something I've been meaning to say, and yet here I am not saying it. And not only am I not saying the thing I've been meaning to say since, I don't know, first grade, but I'm also deciding not to say it in a sonnet, which is not a real sonnet because I've decided that no one can say how to say it. Even the first sonnet maker whose name eludes me or seduces me, either way. I am simply a person whose fingers are moving fast, like really too fast. I'm pretty sure, since I could use a break or break a finger, although notice I just skipped a line. Maybe the sonnet broke a stanza. The thing I am not saying, and I have 3 more lines not to say it, approaches from the left, riding along my peripheral vision like a revelation that will thunder noisily through my neighborhood and park in front of my house in an old blue truck with a dilapidated giddy sign. I love you.
Here's the scoop for anyone who cares to know. Lately, there's nothing I crave more than an unexpected,
Charismatic, pre-feminist theory lover of good old
women in love and thirsty guest grabbing drinks from coolers.
crazy, isn't it? How somewhere right now, another queer.
I was sleeping with thought I was crazy. Saint Michael, I am.
When I'm sad, I sing in the car. When I'm happy,
I find myself winded thinking of Ginsberg's American breath-filled lines, tipping the page nearly.
saying the things I've been meaning to say since, I don't know,
The first time I came across a bunch of rowdy lesbians.
running from side to side before you on the page. Like before you
Before you,
know it.
sorry. You.
Should I keep going?
Oh, it's you, yeah.
Okay. Running from side to side before you on the page. Like before you know it, you'll be up late talking to yourself in an old blue truck with the dilapidated giddy sign, I love you. My favorite queer story begins with a lie and ends with one.
Thank you. I was so into the back and forth that I forgot Maureen. Well, what that was, that
I'm
final,
sure I'll do that at some point too.
it was fun. I was like, we've only done that twice. So that was our flub. But in case you maybe heard some of the lines, we were always challenging each other. It'd be like she would write a rondelay, which is a form that I would write a triolet, and then she would write a poem and I would write her poem reverse, and we were just always sort of challenging and exciting each other. And that one was actually a oh, what's the one? Why can't
Heroic
I?
crown.
Huh?
Heroic
No, it's
crown.
heroic, but the one where we're pulling lines from a cento, where we're pulling lines from each other's homes. So anything in our crown was fair game. So we started dropping our own lines. And then I was choosing hers at the end. That's why Denise had 4 extra lines at the end. So, but Maureen did challenge me. I'd never really written, I think, successfully in form. And because of her, I really fell in love. And Denise and I are actually collaborating on something that's secret. That's all we'll say. But we've been having fun. So I want to read one final one. And thanks to Bayo and Sam and Charis Books for organizing this. I will be back in the role of Maureen in a minute after Sam and Denise read. But I wanted to read one final sonnet that will be published that's not in this book. And I just think it's beautiful. So this is a sonnet from Maureen. And just so I personally don't end up talking about unfunny things myself, about how it's actually suddenly closer to Passover than Christmas now, how time flies fast and humorous in the sonnet world. the world of 14, little rampages of opinion and telepathy. In some states, the season has turned, but not yet here in Colorado. And I'd say never in Florida, unless you look so close your eyes hurt. I can take a turn here if I want to, bring the poem's attention back to what it's like to be alive beneath the cottonwood that's been longing so hard you can feel something like sex in the afternoon air. And you're not the only one itching for release. No, not the only one whose life depends on spring. Thank you so much.
Wow, beautiful, Erin, Denise, just gorgeous. Thank you. It just the sense of humor and pathos, all of it in those poems, remind me so much of Maureen. As an introduction to Portals, I wanted to give a little context to where it came from and the collaborative process that Maureen and I engaged in over many years. So on January 8th, 2011, Gabby Giffords, a member of Congress in the House of Representatives from Arizona, and 18 others were shot in a supermarket in Tucson. 6 people were killed, including a 9-year-old girl. Giffords, who was the target of that attack, survived after being shot in the head and suffering near fatal brain damage. Maureen and I had a friendship that spanned close to 40 years. We met in New York City, both fairly young writers, shared work, and many other aspects of our lives. She was one of the great friendships of my life, perhaps the greatest, and I miss her every day. Our collaborative work, however, didn't begin until almost 20 years after we first met. By that time, I was living in Tucson and Maureen was in Florida. During the unfolding of that Tucson shooting, and wanting to continue working together after just having published our first collaborative book, Stealth, Maureen and I began a new collaboration, which eventually evolved into Portals. The book's almost 400 pages actually contains 3 distinct books. They're called Fluvial, Vesuvius, and Coast. And it was written and edited over the next 12 years. It contains images, photographs, drawings, and at one point actually included short films. And we were lucky to have published many excerpts over the years in various journals and anthologies. However, it took a publisher, Catherine Rantala at Ravenna Press, who had published some of those excerpts to finally commit to publishing the whole. And thanks to Catherine and Ravenna, Portals is this gorgeous tome of a book printed in full color. This is the book. It's like very thick and really has images all the way through. And I just great gratitude to Catherine and Ravenna Press. Maureen and I were able to do a final round of edits 6 months before her death when she died in August of 2023. And although the book was not published until this year, before she died, Maureen knew the book was going to have a physical reality in the world. And what I want to say about collaboration, and specifically collaboration with the collaborative energy between me and Maureen, is that for me, it was a sacred relationship of the deepest kind. We wrote back and forth, sometimes a paragraph, sometimes a line or two, sometimes a single word, sometimes just an image. We prompted each other, and as Portals evolved, we evolved in our lives. That's always what happens over many years. Our relationships, love, separations, divorce, changing geographies, travel, weather, walks, the prescient rise of fascism, climate disaster, all appear in this book. There were moments of extreme magic and even moments where we got bored with each other and shook up the writing as we were pushing each other, as if we were pushing each other off furniture that we were too comfortably sitting on. Sometimes we were in love. Sometimes we had little spats in writing. Sometimes we went on inventive tangents that led us to create new worlds. Anything was possible. We came to the title Portals because it seemed to describe the entrances to the worlds we entered when we gave ourselves over to the energies that transpired between us when we wrote in conversation with each other. I've chosen passages from the opening pages of Portals. It's the first book, Fluvial. And then at the very end, a short excerpt, actually, of the very end of the book, which ends in Maureen's voice, and because I just wanted to end there. There are a few images that appear in the physical book, and I'll try and describe them as we go. And Denise again, and I will go back and forth. Denise will take Maureen's voice, and I will read my own.
Great. Ready?
Ready.
All right. Okay, I will start. Thank you so much, Sam, for letting me be Maureen. It's wonderful. Reading this book was so interesting to me because when I read it, I didn't know who was who necessarily because the voices really blend so well together. So when you sent me this this section with Maureen's highlighted, I was like, oh yeah, I kind of knew it, but I wasn't sure. Like you really do, your voices blend together beautifully. Yeah. It's great.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, I'll start. It begins with a portal of blood and luck. There are the meteorologists of the neighborhood predicting the play of wind off the mountain that slouches at night in its great bare self, like a purpose for which someone is intended. It is the way to the rest of the life they have chosen, secrets in the interstices, the way the door remains closed for everyone but them, and even for them, it requires a shove, so they shove it.
What is it to walk through? To finger, to infant mind, to cross? What is it to finish a world without the intervention of philosophy or corruption? What is it to leap, to not know a toe, an arm, an ether of certainty, to just not care? To witness a great suck of being, a flashing current, notions of sleep, raisins of dreams and courage?
Along the river, cattails and hot spots, their 4 feet twig in Delphic mud, bones root like stanchions. Okay, they say, settle beside the mountain, late blanketing day, back up to Orion at night. They predict nothing but bread. They predict nothing, even bread, which arrives with crusts and twists and caverns of spiced air.
Special delivery tonight. It's almost here, that special baby of dark matter, that kernel of carnal vision and folded predation, fuming up through hot waters, strumming in eerie harmonies and waving bodies, households waiting, heartbeats in unison, lotioned and fundamentally pristine.
There is a soluble century between them, an entire, though small, town that squishes as they walk. They make up, they are attached at tongue and toe, the way red makes a hole in history that sounds like a bell. There is a secret in the room at the back of the house, a gun, a brother, something close to a crime that was hidden along a river or in the lining of a box, much madness, and no eye discerning enough to tell, 1 for sorrow, 2 for joy, a violence eclipsed and surreptitious.
Roiling faggots and communists strangled. Some nights the tide turns rabid with their fury and suffocation. That harness of creosote clogs every pipe and drips from every wall of every well. Clearly time for an uprising, a revolution of tiny eruptions, a slight swell of concrete, then a conflagration of salt cedar at the river's edge, skewered through a preacher's ribs. But righteous, always. A repeating settlement for a past so vicious that although sometimes hidden, it would never remain silent. It tripped the wandering party across the street, right there at the spring where an Apache raid took the life of 2 white servant girls. So the sign says, in revenge for more rapes and deaths than a river of cranes could ever be counted.
Those who die in the desert inherit clean bones, scoured in sand and melted in sun until they connect like braised bottles at the glass dump, or lead in a crucible fired into unrecognizable shapes, everyone heated to non-longing, transmuted to innocence.
Tonight he told me the government threw lye on the carcasses at the bottom of the canyon. mostly horses, some with men still on their backs, chased off the face of the cliff. No name for this massacre. He said the people, his family, who settled there were too ashamed for naming.
Names pressed in heavy books, like fallen leaves or stolen wildflowers. So they pretend to live alone on this plain in this wen, the path along which each kicks a stone toward the other, their heads weary and webby, mourning, remembering.
So there is a way to make toast, raising a glass, inscribing whispers as they fly by like ash, bonfires everywhere, marches, parades, exhibitions, the opportunity to commemorate, always in preparation, throwing on a costume, dyeing one's hair and polishing one's boots, combing the manes of ponies, tying ribbons, always, always weeping.
The body coasts along.
Tin ears and fish might rob the night, might flail in the mud, might sort, might shimmer.
The river stores its sobs, blue and churlish, frail and headlong. Fish at night flailing on tin, night flailing in the sort of fish that shimmer, robbing mud. Ears skim the sobbing river.
Cuyahoga, crooked and rushed, heart of passage.
The reason for the world is
Gorillas, platform boas, white patent leather handbags, pink ass, a lump of hidden cock. A crowd rushing forward off the train, herons flying 6 inches from the water, bullfrogs, nipples, red epaulets on a field of mossy green.
uncertain sea of complexity, uncertain seas of quark, uncertain drowned quantum, uncertain smoldered sea, uncertain ash on the river.
January 8th, 2011, Tucson. You mean the corpse got up and walked itself away? Today, the earth is even more ash and fruit. We are full of questions and more empty of honor. Will the corpse be full of love after or before a violent death?
January 10th, 2011, Yukon, Oklahoma. I left Cheyenne and Arapaho with snow and light posing like a blood flow on the plains of Oklahoma. There are cowboys in the Waffle House, Texans watching Big Love next door. I said yes to a guy in the elevator when he asked if I was cold.
January 10th, 2011, Tucson. June 14th, 1940, Charis. And there's an image in the book here. This is this famous image of a Frenchman weeping as German soldiers march into the French capital, Paris, on June 14th, 1940, after the Allied armies had been driven back across France. An attack of a frantic, what's coming down the tracks? January 16th, 2011, Tucson. It's that simple, my friend. It's a headstrong. We are the world, we are the red G-string, we are the rush, the pop, 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 the give me liberty. We are the rush of shouts, we are the rage, we are fall headlong into a body, in protection, in utter terror, in frantic. We are how could you? We are a simple upright piano. We are digging with desperation into the wood, beneath the keys, digging into our forearms, digging, the pop, pop, pop.
January 18th, 2011, before we were born.
This is a letter actually reproduced in the text. And I just to give you an idea of what it looks like, it has markings on it. It's from the FBI file on Muriel Rukeyser. Mr. John Edgar Hoover, to Mr. John Edgar Hoover, Director, Federal Bureau of Investigation, Department of Justice, Washington, D.C. Dear Mr. Hoover, confirming my telephone conversation with Mr. Welch, will you please let us have a summary of the information in your files concerning Miss Muriel Rukeyser of 57 Bank Street, New York, New York, who was born in New York on December 15th, 1913. If this information is available by November 4th, it will be very helpful to us. Very truly yours, George Gould, Chief Investigations Office.
From Muriel Rukeyser's FBI file.
She finally calmed me down, doing all that for me, denouement and funnels swirling around in pure rivers, thousands of them, evicting evil with rucksacks of soup. I held my head against the cool glass, etched with ice and fog.
The bandage is torn off, curtain goes down, and here's the moment of proof. Muriel Rukeyser. I write because there was a rock behind my house, and on it I counted pines and clouds, which were not loud but far. Sounds of throats and heads in the throats of ovens. Suicide, not contagious, but the sound of suicide, the sound of writing, keys and the spreading page. Before that, I thought how they would come to play their music for me, or not for me sometimes, for me other times. And in this knowing of words, of music, I wrote and spoke. I possibly spoke and wrote. I can almost remember.
In breath, in which he tried to go deep but quiet so the thrush would not notice and wake itself in the dusk, the long call of creation echoes off the forest floor.
I remember how to churn bread, to hold it down until it puffs. Silence of bread, finger of salt. She offered me the same size dress, but in a different color. Shoes with thy name on the soles, like a secret.
Because my fingers needed a place to go. Because of the scrabble in the dust, fierce and scrapping. Because of the digging. Few humans would excavate that hard, that deep, that bright. Hardly a living creature would endure that searing, that want, that urgent call of notice, souls plumb-line straight.
Holding glass, the leg of a dog, the world. Fruit and leaves. One wears a hat, one may be a woman. She may have been added, glass inside glass, excavated and gratuitous.
Made? She may have been made? What does that mean? Geothermal? Matted, crucible, diamond pressure, lava venture, facial irregularity in comparison to what? Purity impressive, onslaught shining, gory and piney.
The veins in her throat are blue. The bones in her feet are hollow. The tongue in her head is a tiny hedgehog that moves around the inside of her mouth, trying for a sweet and solicitous autonomy.
That explains it. Various but fleeting, she searches through phone books and chemistry indexes for a way out.
There is a short discussion in the middle of a marathon. 4 shoes beneath bleachers and others gorged with dancing on clumps of hungry girls. All those things we said about seeing each other past calamity. We were right about one thing. We were right about one thing.
Unhinged and in uniform. Be careful. From way up here, it's just red, at least for one game. Another day, it's blush, never pink, blush. A pile of senates, unhappy colonies, just one phantom, no decision today, the smell too rancid, waiting for transits and slower time.
In the course of a year, phantoms are liable to surface gratuitously. Most are ordinary, others gallant. One might be abruptly transferred. They're usually heavier than expected and royal, like John Belushi.
Reckless flies, thousands gathered in the skylight of spring. Together they sound like freight, sealed in rooms, flat at the bottom, round on the top, a low, heavy anxiety looking for an exit.
Goodbye, Annis Star, Seed. Goodbye, Below Zero. Goodbye, Cielo. Goodbye, Door to Door. Goodbye.
And now just the very ending of the book, the end of book 3, Coast. We're actually up to 90 chapters in this book. You heard the first 3. So this is the very end of the book. We continue to pay in beauty and buts. You cannot leave the heaven bound, but I understand the worn, the tired, the travel. The tree continues to pay damages. What is this fire? Cannot leave the hell-bent, I travel cheap and without shirts. Several of us continued west. We got stuck there without water, sinking. The bread barely made it down our throats, the tremble, marching, the constricted hesitation. My father pays into accumulation. It's just so critical and crushing. We got stuck there with tremendous expectations. For instance, that the lights would light in perpetuity. You cannot leave the founder's corner. I understand the simple, the ancient, the victory.
And once I came to the end of a litany I'd yet to recreate. Each prayer branched as if born of equation. Each song stoked new archives and heroines. I thought caprice, crosswind, a season of coupling, and arrived at my destination, awash in salt or silt or silver. The river I rode fed the tree a ransom light, or the river dried at the tree's worn roots, but not mercifully before. And so the singing went on for a time. For a time, the tree persisted, as if unharmed. It fractaled cloudward, jubilant.
Thank you, Denise.
Thank you, Sam, for letting me read with you. Beautiful. Hi again, Erin. Remember me? Oops, I think you're muted.
That's my life, and I'm teaching Zoom. But I want to say,
I will not silence you.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say James Allen Hall's here, who actually published that sonnet sequence that we just read in Cherry Trees. I just wanted to celebrate that. That a terrific literary magazine you all should read and send work to. So
great. Well, for the third part of our reading, Erin is going to be Maureen, and I'll be myself. And we are going to read from Tilt. And I just wanted to thank the bookstore and Ariba and Sam for organizing this, and everyone that showed up. Thank you so much. Okay, so as Erin said, Maureen loved form and thought naturally in sonnets. I mean, it was just the way she thought. It was the way she wrote. And like Erin, I was very nervous around form, and Maureen's the one who got me into sonnets and all kinds of forms. So the first poem we're going to read is Numbers Up. And this is actually a traditional sonnet. You can scan it, but we stand by it. So here we go.
Numbers Up.
There are 2 galaxies for everyone alive, over 7 quintillion grains of sand.
One rich man squinting from a needle's eye, 2 poor gals arm linked in an ampersand.
Thriving hives hold 30,000 bees, the Powerball jackpot a cool billion.
A year's the record for the longest sneeze. The rainforest is 80% Brazilian.
1 in 4 people cannot smell cyanide. 1 in 4 people cannot taste bitter food.
Each day, people talk to themselves 6 times. 1 out of 10 stand-up comics are booed.
Now they say that time has no beginning,
though Earth's at the bottom of its 9th inning.
And the next poem that we're going to read is called Holy Hippocampus, a conversation in couplets, which I realize now that Aaron was supposed to say that, so you can say it again. But we wrote some of the poems in Tilt. We wrote as Maureen was dying. I mean, we're all dying, but she knew she was dying. And she was on drugs that was, they were really giving her memory problems. And I always have memory problems, even when I'm not on drugs. So we were very obsessed with time and memory. And that's kind of what we're talking about in this poem.
Holy Hippocampus, a conversation in couplets.
The human brain stores 1,000,000 gigabytes of memory. So why is it I can't recall where I plunked down my keys or orange flash drive?
If only I could access the words of Proust I read at 20, or what you said yesterday about how to treat a cold. Was it frankincense?
Frank remembers you so clearly, but you can't access his face, even looking at his picture. High school classmates, grade school teachers.
A blur. I've always wanted to tell you that my mother with Alzheimer's recalled her Carteret childhood in encyclopedic detail, but that was it.
Did she forget being a mother and your childhood? I love reimagined retro postcards. I left my baby on the bus, or I forgot to have children.
That's my mom, unable to spell world backwards by 55, DLROW. They say the brain alters a memory simply by remembering it.
That is why I remember my second grade accordion as gold, but in pictures it's maroon. In one, my hair has a green tint. Impossible.
Or ahead of your time, as always. They also say our short-term memory holds only 7 pieces of information at a time. Holy hippocampus.
Number 8, where did I park my car? Nudges out Conan O'Brien's punchline and whether or not I turned off the coffee pot. My remote key beeps.
But the kid who insisted on pushing my grocery cart is telling me where he snowshoes. 9. My cells ringing in the surreal distance of some pocket.
In my jacket or purse or reusable tote, and I fear someone I love is in trouble. An accident, a broken heart, a bounced check. Hello?
My brain needs an upgrade, higher resolution for those misty watercolored tidbits that pixelate rebelliously as I furrow my brow.
What I do remember is Bert's chalk sidewalk drawing turning into a painting when it rained. Or was that Mary Poppins magic?
I know you're not thinking I remember a whole movie I only saw 5 times, are you? What about that annoying link between memory and hormones?
Or that stress kills memory cells? I read that doing certain tasks can stimulate the growth of brain cells, but I can't remember which tasks.
Well, we're both good at math. Today, I read that it takes the brain 80 milliseconds to process info. For that time, we're actually living in the past.
These next 2 poems are both in Terzarima, if anyone cares to know. Maureen loved Terzarima, and so do I. And we wrote them during the pandemic. And Sam makes an appearance, a cameo in this poem.
Equinox.
Pictures of the virus are pretty, like sea creatures or pin-cushioned moons or holograms posing in semi-witty
Situations beside balls and balloons, glowing with coronas, crowns, halos, under microscope, SpongeBob cartoons.
look fractal, similar, my own lungs aglow with pink rods and blue cones. I'm silly, then scared. Neighbors hoard Purell, ammo.
Against infection, I try to chill, be a peaceful citizen, a good locked up or locked down member of society.
I'm baking bad, filling measuring cups to make pot brownies for frantic friends and a wedding cake for Sam and Sunny's
Shuls, virtual and queer and legal and euphoric. We'll each dance in our Zoom box to the host boom box. No need to pretend.
We're anywhere but in our PJs and socks, our pink boas and perky blue face masks, lest we're contagious. It's the equinox.
Night and day perfectly split. Sam Bask and Sunny, Sunny and Sam a perfect fit. Then the day goes back to quarantine task.
Hand washing, my fingers so dry, chit-chatting on my Clorox wiped iPhone, bombarding heaven for the sad and the sick.
Solstice.
Stonehenge is closed this solstice. Pagans, druids, and tourists can watch online or create their own backyard haven.
Of ancient megalithic stones, or find solace in gobbling up strawberries or building a classic Lego shrine.
The day will be long. No need to worry about time or whether or not the sun in your natal chart is in Aries.
Priest will baptize babies with squirt guns, amen, while at-risk oldsters line up to be shot with holy oil and sent home. Fun?
Fact. More people are using their Krups single-serve coffee maker these days. Plus, fish are used as spies now. Guppies.
Grouper jellyfish to keep our seas safe from Russia, Iran, China, Iraq, or whoever we fear most. Gamma rays
Are invisible, yet still wreak havoc on the human body. This summer solstice, check your noontime shadow as you walk.
See how tiny you are as you cross this crazy earth, how everything's so stark, raving bright, you can hardly believe you exist.
And the last two poems we're going to read go back to the sonnet, but very, loose sonnets. And the first of the two deals with the support of same-sex marriage in Florida, which Maureen, of course, was for, but also terrified of because as someone who'd already been married once, she didn't want to be married again. So this poem sort of explores that. And it's very bittersweet, of course, to revisit this poem now, which was meant to be comic. And it is comic, but it's, our rights are being stripped away one by one. But nonetheless, I want to read this poem.
Anti-disestablishmentarianism sonnet.
When Key West passed its symbolic resolution in support of same-sex marriage in 2004, I knew what was next. My lover would want a minister, a cake, the whole shebang. I was a happy outcast.
From the legal noise and noose of wedlock, I thought I was safe as long as I lived in Florida, state of restrictive laws, no women allowed to parachute on Sunday, no men allowed in strapless gowns.
Once upon a time, I was felonious and free as a pelican brigade. I was endangered as a ghost orchid. But now I'm registered at Bed, Bath, and Beyond, fussing over a seating chart. What is marriage?
You say, if not for the brave, and what is love if not for all? Please pass me the gown and the parachute. And this is the last poem from Tilt, and thanks everyone for listening. And this is
Florida Doll Sonnet.
I love fresh market, but always feel underdressed, squeezing overpriced limes, Louis Vuitton, Gucci, Fiorucci, and all the ancient East Coast girls with their scarecrow limbs and joker grins.
Their silver fox husbands, rosy from tanning beds, steady their ladies who shuffle along in muumuus, not muumuus. Who shuffle along in muumuus, not muumuus, and make me hide behind towers of handmade soaps and white pistachios, who
knew I'd still feel like the high school fat girl with some 30 odd years later. My Birkenstocks and my prosperity for Fig Newtons. Still, whenever I'm face to face with a face that is no more real
than a doll's, I try to love my crinkles, my saggy chin skin, my body organic with no preservatives. Thank you for listening. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Paul. Oh my goodness. Yay. We're going to actually have a short conversation to end this evening, but anybody out there in the audience who would love to ask a question, please put it in the chat. I don't know, I can't see the chat right now for some reason, but or if there are any questions, maybe Abea will let us know. Yeah, no questions right now. Okay, good. So this is a conversation between us. It feels a little painful, odd that Maureen is not here to enter into this conversation, even though her voice was clearly so much here. And I like all aspects of Maureen's voice, her humor, her dedication to form, her sadness. I just felt the whole range of her in these, and the whole range of you all too, in that. So wondering if you'd like to add a little bit more about what the collaborative process was, and obviously specifically with Maureen. Maybe you've collaborated with other folks. I've done some with other people. Very different. It was very different.
I agree. I think I've been the one collaborating with Maureen the longest, so I'll just chime in. And she was my main collaborator for many, many years, but we had this joke that she was we were non-monogamous in our collaboration. She just couldn't be contained. Like she would collaborate with like a little kid. You know, she would step out on me all the time. You know, just I got to collaborate with this person. She just would write like one poem with someone too, just to have fun. Like she was so dedicated to collaboration. And when we first came to collaborate is because I went to see David Trinidad read, who's, you know, before I knew, now I know David Trinidad, but I was just fanning, you know, a fan, and went to hear him read. And he had been collaborating with someone named Bob Flanagan, and had a little chapbook. And I bought his chapbook and I had him sign it, and I had Bob Flanagan sign it. And I just remember calling Maureen and saying, I just saw this amazing thing, you know, at St. Mark's, blah, blah, blah. Do you want to try it? And we didn't know what we were doing. Like we didn't have even a sense of, we didn't even know what Exquisite Corpse was or any of the basics. And we would just write line by line. And then we tried Exquisite Corpse. And then we did line by line with form. And then, you know, we counted syllables and it just grew. And I really think it was such a one of, you know, I think Sam, you said that she was like one of the great friendships of your life. And that's how, I mean, she was that for me as well. And I think both of our writing, when I first met Maureen, she had trouble even writing free verse at all. Like when we first started writing, I said, well, you write a line, I write a line. She said, how many syllables? And I was like, I don't care. You know, and then to hear her evolution, like to go, what she was writing with you, Sam, was basically like prose poems or nonfiction or, you know, like she wound up with a memoir, and she like just grew and grew as a writer until the very end. I mean, it's such an amazing dedication to writing, no matter what. I mean, she was sick, she was on drugs, she couldn't remember things, but she wrote anyway. I'm like, I don't care what you remember, just write something. And she did, you know, and she was.
Well, I think it speaks so much to the generosity of her her view of the creative. Honestly, it was not. I mean, yes, it was often a solitary act, but it was somehow always in communication. It was always as if she was writing a letter to the universe. You know, and I felt that from her, and I also felt that that relationship took me out of myself. I mean, it took me out of things I would never have tried just alone, or, you know, if I was, or I, you know, what I do. And I do miss that. I think that happens in collaboration because you're working with, in relation, in communication with another entire voice. But to step into that and let go of ego, or how one does things, or watch as ego unfolds, and you know, right? Yeah.
Yep.
I feel like it was interesting to hear you talk. I think in some ways I probably feel closer in certain ways because Maureen never existed in a space with me. So she's always been on the computer, you know, a couple phone calls. So like, I feel like I'm always like, I stop, I'm like, I bet Maureen would love that sunset, you know, like, because for me, she always was this sort of existence in the ether and away. And so in some ways, I don't feel like that with my mom, because my mom was very much with me. When she died, she had beliefs where she was going, but I always felt like Maureen was like, I'm going out into everything, was the sense I got from her. So I feel very like connected to that. It's funny though, I never wanted to collaborate. I was like, it won't be mine. It won't be my poem. Like, what are we doing? I don't get it. You know, my sister is a songwriter and their world's all about co-writing. And when we started it, I mean, I really think you had to feel very comfortable with the person you're with, or really willing to step into it. And even reading for each other, like, man, could she do diction and verbal fireworks. I mean, and I mean, at least in me, she brought that out more in me, because I think sometimes I'm more straightforward, and she just always had me paying attention to my language and how I could make it, like, I wanted to thrill her. You know, I wanted something that she would be excited about back and forth. But what I found, and Maureen's, it's in the introduction, I can't remember the order, but she was very certain, like, she's like, there are 4 voices. There's Maureen 1, Aaron 2. No, I think it's Aaron 1, Aaron 2, Maureen 3, Aaron 3, Maureen 4. And she's right. Like, I can hear what's very me, what's her. And then we sort of run into these other words, like this hybrid. And sometimes I'm reading it, and like, we did a couple sestinas at the end where we don't label who wrote what. And I forget what lines I wrote. I'm like, who wrote that?
Yeah.
Me too. Like, when we were reading, I should have said this when Aaron and I were reading from Tilt. I just, we gave each other lines and stanzas, but I really don't, especially for the earlier poems, I have no idea. And I think the Tsarima, which is 3 lines per stanza, I think we wrote 2 lines at a time. So, you know what I mean? It would make, yeah. So it wasn't true to what we actually wrote, but that was like so fun too. And we had never worked in that going back and forth that way that you did with Maureen. Like, we never wrote whole poems back and forth. So I just think she was able to, like, I don't know, she was just like one of those like great dancers. Like, whatever partner she was with, she could just get the best out of them or something.
And she always called the end of the collaboration. Was that the same for you, Sam?
Oh yeah. She was. And also she ends your book, right?
I mean, she would say, that's the end.
She could not start a poem. I mean, she could start her own poems, but we would have this great idea, and she's like, oh no. And I can start a poem easily, but she always had to end them. I mean, and I gladly, because whatever she came up with was better than anything I could come up with.
Yeah,
she always knew how to end things.
Well, Denise and I were actually panic about endings. Like, again, we're not going to the details, but Denise and I will write each other like, is that ending okay?
No, it's true. And I'm like, no, it's really good. I'm like, I know, just change it if you don't like it. I always feel like I either go on too long or just,
Well, you've both alluded to this, but it's really interesting that working with Maureen, what it brought out in each of you, like different necessarily from what you do write in your own. And yeah, I think that listening to that, like what it is, I would often find myself, I was like, oh, I let myself write that, which is, which would be not necessarily appear, but what I've taken from that is back into my own separate solo work.
Me too.
Allowing that to happen, and those places where I didn't even think to go, I can go now.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
One thing with our book is we label mostly who wrote what. Occasionally we write back and forth. So I had this terror, like, oh my God, how do I keep up with Maureen Seaton? Like, I can't hide, because it's like A, my path, and B, it's M, and then a couple. But she just, I just felt like in such a lovely way. It was so supportive. But she just is like, here. And I was like, okay, what can I do? Dig deep into my poetry life. And it was like, I didn't have to be the usual me that's writing my poems. Like, I got to be this other version, and that's the Aaron 3, I think she was talking about. I could sort of dive in. So a lot of the things I want to talk about, but our conversations grew. And then we were also sending emails back and forth, getting to know each other more. And some of them are in the book, and our editors like, maybe they're kind of dragging a little bit. And he was right. I agreed with him, but I still have that whole like unedited version where we're learning more about each other and chatting. And, so this whole friendship was growing. And I don't know, I feel it. I didn't know I would feel, but I feel immensely proud of what we did in a way that I've not felt. I've always been thrilled to publish my books and I'm proud, but there's something so special about a document of a friendship and something that was deeply profound. Like I said, spiritual in a way that I don't understand that word, but that's the word I think most people would understand. There was just this connection that felt so otherworldly and thrilling. Yeah.
Yeah, very much. So in Portal, you can tell our voices mostly, not entirely, because I mostly write without any punctuation or line breaks. But as you said, Denise,
But
Maureen,
Maureen does that too sometimes in other poems. So that's why
I know it's true.
And,
I mean,
and then when it goes into verse, yeah, it's so interesting.
Well,
we love prose chunks. That's what she said. Prose chunks. That's what she called them. Prose chunks.
Yeah. Good. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you were writing, I mean, so the book Tilt was also over a long period of time, and that was our, final. Unfortunately, Maureen didn't know that this book would be published, but I promised her I would get it. I was like, I will, I will, I will. So when Maureen was alive, when she knew it was going to be published, is that right? Did I hear you right?
Yeah, we didn't know it was going to get published, but we decided like 6 months before Maureen died that, and she didn't know that was coming at that point, or at least imminent. I mean, she did know, but not that period of time. We said, okay, let's try to see if we can wrestle this enormous thing that we've worked on for so long. And we didn't work on it consistently over those years, but there were times, we would go into it, we edit it, we do different versions of it, but we took the whole and really read it out loud to each other over the phone. Each page, each section, all of it, and did a final edit on it. And then I visited Maureen at the end of May, in May, I think, before she died, and she died in August. And at that point, we were finalizing some of the images and coming up with really what this was. And then we decided to try and find someone to publish it. And Catherine Rantala had published in little chapbook some excerpts from the book, and we contacted her, and she said she would love to publish the whole thing, which was an undertaking and a true, just given the formatting and the color, all of the images in it. So Maureen knew a couple of months before she died that this would happen. We were kind of hoping it would happen before she died, but we didn't know. And it's a long process. But Maureen did know.
That's lovely. That's great. That's great. Well, we were really lucky, Aaron and I, because I knew that Aaron had written with Maureen, and then the editor of Whirl Press contacted me because he knew I was a collaborator, and his name is David Kaplan. He said, "Do you by chance have anything?" I'm like, "Do I have something?" I sure do. And I actually know my friend Aaron Smith was also collaborating with Maureen, the same person. And so it's really like, I don't know. I feel like it's kind of a love letter to Maureen. I mean, I know she wrote her own love letter, but still, it feels like a love letter, right? Like, and that they actually did it. I said, "Oh, I have this crazy idea." And they said, "That sounds good." I mean, they were incredible. They were amazing.
Yeah.
I thought it's never going to happen. And Denise used to tell me it'd be great to have them both. I'm like, oh yeah, it would be, but I'm like, dream on, And then they just
Maureen too, because Maureen was so, in the zone. I don't know. I can't explain it, but she would just kind of know something was going to happen, and it did. where I was like, and she'd be like, oh, it's
Yeah.
going to get published. And then it would, you know what I mean? She had an ease about these things, which I don't have.
Yeah,
So I
she
think
told
it
me,
was like guiding it.
like she told me once, she's like, well, I can ask God for you. He listens more closely to the dying. Like she was
Ah,
very on another plane like that. And it
yeah.
was like, yeah, I mean, it was like these things that she was so in tune with that, and I would be going like, oh, I'm having a bad day. I can't get my meds adjusted. And she's like dealing with terminal cancer, but she never made me feel like what I was going through in my life wasn't important. Then there'd be times when she's like giving me advice. I'm like, oh my God, what this woman's going through. And I'm like sad about, you know what I mean? But she just wanted to participate. She just always wanted to participate. And the poems, I think, were that participation. I mean, we were just having this conversation and we wrote ours in the winter, spring, and summer of 2022. Like ours was not long like yours. We did it in like 4 or 5
Yeah.
months. And she'd be like, did you lose the draft? I haven't heard from you. And then I'd be like, did you get mine? Because we were just like chomping to get back to it. It was like my favorite part of the day was getting that email and seeing what my next sort of idea was going to be, and what my next sort of challenge was going to be. And she wrote the sonnet that became the title poem of her last book. It's in Beautiful People.
Yeah.
Sky is an Elephant is her last book. And that's one of the poems she wrote, which impressed me and I think is gorgeous. And I'm still stunned by that poem. I think James, who was here, like, oh my God, you've got to hear the sonnet by Maureen. I mean, it was just blows my mind. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think we will come to an end. I don't think there are any questions in the audience.
We got one question, which I think would be a great one to end us off on.
Okay.
It's from James, actually. Are any of you still writing towards Maureen's voice, even if you can't write alongside her voice?
Yeah.
Yes, I am. And I've been writing a lot about her. And then okay, this sounds like very wooey, but I feel like she's with me sometimes when I write about her. Like I wrote about, I've been recently. Yeah, and I try to, she's almost, for me anyway, impossible to imitate or to emulate or anything. But I keep like throwing her lines, like some of my favorite lines of hers from her solo books in my poems. And yeah, I think I am. Sorry, I just jumped in because how about you two?
I feel
I'll let Sam in. I'll let you end. I'll just say, I feel like collaborating with Denise right now is part of that. There's such a kindredness between the two of you. And like, when I asked you, I was like, well, maybe we should. That I was like, oh, Denise may not want to. And then what we're doing fell in place. I feel that energy too. I mean, I definitely feel like you're pushing me in ways when I get yours. And then I'm like, oh, what can I throw back at Denise to challenge her? And I feel like but I also feel there's a closeness that writing with you feels similar to writing with Maureen. And that's
I feel
really,
the same way.
oh, good. It's really comforting.
No, it's lovely. And then also like when we first started, you were using like her parentheses and you were doing like these gestures towards her. And I'm trying to do that every once in a while too.
Yeah.
Because she was like the queen of parentheses. Or this or that. It was always like something or something.
Yeah, something else to say. And for me, I think I said it already. I feel like what she pushed me to do where I go, I do feel that really all the time. I'm not collaborating with anyone right now, but somehow her voice never leaves me. It just never leaves me.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think we've come to the end of this evening.
Thank you.
I think we've been recorded, so this should be available at some point up on the Charis YouTube channel. And thank you, everyone who came. Thank you, Denise. Thanks, Aaron. It's just been wonderful to be with you. And thank you, Maureen, for all.
Yes, Maureen. For sure.
Good night, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you for hosting us. Okay, bye-bye.